Hey friends, today on Gardening with Creekside, I am going to share with you how I am going to protect my plants from the 3 nights that are upcoming with freezing temperatures. If you have been following Creekside for the past length of time, past couple of weeks, or if you are in the southeast southern part of the United States, you are probably in the same boat that I am and understand my current predicament. We are going to have, like I said, 3 nights of freezing temperatures. It's going to be like 28, 25, 28. And the past 3.5 weeks here in the South, we have had wonderful, glorious spring-like weather. And we knew that this day was going to come where we were going to have these cold temperatures, because it always happens. The plants wake up, they're happy, they put on all this beautiful new foliage. Spring is here, and then boom, you know, right? I know some people were getting even snow yesterday. So I want to take this time to show you how I am going to protect my plants for these 3 nights. I'm also going to share with you what plants I am concerned about and what plants I am not concerned about, that I know that they will be just fine. So that is the whole goal of this video, so that you have some power and knowledge. That way you can make the decisions that are best for your garden. Before we get too far into this, there's really only one product that I am going to tell you to avoid when you are trying to protect your plants from cold, and that is like plastic sheeting. Whether it is a like an old shower curtain liner or trash bags, any kind of like plastic sheeting. You don't want to use that because it will actually burn the plants and not protect the plants. What you are looking for, if you want to use like some sort of draping material, you want to use fabric. You want to use cloth. I raided the kids' linen closet before I came out here, and I got a whole bunch of sheets that they either are not using, or it's okay that I use these, like the girls, the rainbows and unicorns flannel sheets. These are great. So any of your old bed sheeting, whether it's a pillowcase, a flat sheet, a fitted sheet, it really does not matter. You just want that beautiful, nice cloth fabric, and then we can cover the plants with that. Also, nobody is safe around here when Jenny is trying to protect her plants. I raided Brenna's stash of towels that we use for her bedding, whether it's in her kennel or on her mat. And so old pool towels, beach towels. Towels are wonderful. Would I recommend you use your nice fancy bath towels? Probably not, because they could just get a little dirty. Everything that I'm going to use, it is okay if it gets soil on it, if it gets wet, if it gets yucky, we'll just throw it in the wash machine when we're all done and everything will be fine. So beach towel, pool towels are wonderful. So I have a huge stack right here of all that material. Another great resource is, I try to encourage people to do this when our Unique Stone order comes in, because Unique Stone uses their packing material. They use recycled burlap bags. So these are actually bags, burlap bags, that will hold coffee beans. And I think they get them from Starbucks, because there'll actually be a Starbucks sticker on there. And so this is from, like, I don't know, where is it, Guatemala? Yeah. So you've got these great burlap bags. They're already going to have a cut on them, because when they had to open them up to get the coffee beans out. And then I will go ahead and rip open a whole nother section so that we can open it up and lay it over plants. I'm going to show you exactly how I use each of these different products in the garden. So just know that if you have burlap bags, it is wonderful. We have another order of Unique Stone coming in at the end of this month. We give these bags away for free. So come get them. This is one of the best ways to use these bags when I'm not using them in this time of year. I just fold them up and put them on the top of my gardening shelf in the garage, and I just keep them up there, and they hang out there until I need them. So fabrics, any kind of fabrics that you can think of, use those. Those are wonderful to protect those plants. One of the things you may be like, well, how in the world do I hold the fabric on there? Sometimes you can just, you know, depending on the plant, you can just lay it on top of the plant and it's fine. It's no big deal. Some plants, maybe like I have my holly fern right next door that we're going to show you, I don't want to put the weight on it because it will bend it down. We actually have these metal hoops from our days of being a vegetable farmer, and we would put these across, you know, down every so many feet down the vegetable row, and then use landscape fabric to cover it. It helped keep out the pests. It would warm them up, the rows up, but it would also keep the frost off of the plants. So I am going to use what I have and use these hoops in different various applications on different plants where I need to keep the weight of the fabric off of the plant. So use that. If you don't have these, most people don't, a stick would work great. If you have a bamboo stake, if you have a tomato cage, use your tomato cages, put that around, and then put fabric on top of that. That's a wonderful idea. So if you have, again, have those plants, you don't want the weight on it, use something to keep the weight of the fabric off, and that will be wonderful. So those are kind of, as far as like the fabrics, that is what we're going to use in those situations. Another great option that's super easy are your buckets. Whether it's a 5-gallon bucket or if it's just a traditional gardening pail bucket, whatever, doesn't matter. We're going to take these and flip them upside down and put them on top of plants. This is great for hostas that are emerging out, or I have some of my bleeding hearts, because you get the height, right? So the diameter is not circumference is not very wide, like some of my bleeding hearts are not, but they do have some height to them. So I can just take my bucket and put it down on top of it, kind of nestle it down into the soil, and it really does provide that great insulation. So these are wonderful. And then this time of year, I'm also telling all of my customers when they're coming in and they're buying perennials or shrubs or trees, and they have those great kind of larger size containers, I'm saying hold on to them at least until we get well past the threat of a frost, because these are wonderful to protect your plants. They're also great. I don't have annuals in the ground right now, but if I did have annuals that were like April or May and we get that crazy last frost or freeze, these are wonderful for annuals because you can pop them upside down and cover them. So whatever size, whether it's a gallon, 3-gallon, 5-gallon, 7-gallon, I even found a stash of 15 gallons that we use up at production to like pot things up and move them up. So I grabbed those. So I have a whole assortment of pots that I am going to use. I just put on top of the plant upside down. We are not expecting any kind of wind this time. A lot of times when the cold air comes in and we have those drop in temperatures, we have tons of wind. Praise the Lord, we don't have it this time. So that way I know that all my pots will be nice and safe and they'll stay there. If you do have wind, get a rock, get something heavy and put it on top of the pot so it does not blow off. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go around to all the various parts in the garden, both here and at the display beds, those kinds of things, and I am going to share with you exactly how I'm going to use these different kinds of methods to protect my plants. I'm going to show you what I'm concerned about, and I'm going to tell you what I am not concerned about. So without further ado, we're going to start right here in the shade garden, and we're going to get these plants protected. One of the things that you definitely want to be looking out for with these freezing temperatures after your hydrangeas that bloom on old wood have flushed out. Right here I have my zebra hydrangea. This is a macrophylla hydrangea. It blooms on old growth. That means the buds, flower buds, have already been set on here. If I do not protect this and we get cold temperatures like we're expected to get, then that means I am going to get either none or very few flowers on your old growth hydrangeas. So I've got a fitted sheet. This is actually, I think, like a double size sheet, and hopefully it will be enough. Now the little woody stems from the hydrangea will help hold it up, so I don't need to worry about using those stakes and those supports. And what you want to do, I like the fitted sheets because they kind of, you know, they have that elastic built in for the sides, and so you're just going to go in and you're going to cover it, and you're going to try to make sure the best that you possibly can do that it is covered. So you just kind of go around avoiding any other plants that are in your garden and your flower beds. See, I have one sticking out, so I want to come back in here and get that tucked in and make sure, there we go, come back here. Now, your yard is gonna look weird, right? Your yard is gonna have an interesting look to it for the next couple of days. But your neighbors probably already know that you're a gardener and that you enjoy your plants, and they probably are just going, oh, well, it's just Jenny. She's up to something weird again, and that's okay. When it comes spring and summer and you've got a beautiful flowering hydrangea, they'll appreciate what you went through. All right, so just making sure that everything is covered. There we go. So super simple with this hydrangea. It is nice and covered. Again, the wind will not cut through it because we're not going to have any, praise the Lord. So macrophylla hydrangeas, definitely ones you want to do. Lace caps, mountain hydrangeas, oak leaf hydrangeas, any kind of hydrangea that blooms on old growth, you want to protect. Next, I have a bleeding heart right here. I've got bleeding hearts on both sides. I have got hostas and I have got pulmonaria. The hostas are a little iffy for me because a lot of them are still just the shoots. We don't have a lot of leaves coming out yet. My golden tiara does have some leaves popping out. I will do my best to cover that. The only thing is it's so big. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll just lay like a beach towel on it. Let me show you though how easy it is to cover these bleeding hearts using your buckets. 5-gallon bucket, right wherever it is, and we've got this bleeding heart right here in the corner. And so we're just gonna turn it upside down, making sure that your foliage is tucked in there. Oh, she's a little wider than I thought. Brenda's gonna come and help. Oh, I know, thank you. Oh, I know, kisses. Okay, so out you go, out. Good girl. So there we go, everybody's protected. Wiggle it down just like that. So yes, you're gonna be a little strange looking. You've got sheets and buckets and pots randomly throughout your yard. It's okay, so those are done. My eucharis, I am not gonna worry about. They are perfectly fine. My Lenten roses, they're good to go. My evergreens, good to go. They are nice and cold and hardy. They've been out here all winter long. What I am concerned about is my holly fern on the other side of the hydrangea. So let me show you how I'm gonna cover that. Here you will see I have a beautiful holly fern that has got tons of beautiful foliage out. I mean, really far advanced for this time of year. This is what I affectionately call Annette's holly fern because I took a clump from my sweet friend Annette who lives in Texas. So this is, it's not a technical name, this is Jenny's name of Annette's holly fern. You will see underneath that I have all of the old foliage. I left that because I wanted that to protect the new foliage. Well, new foliage popped out so fast. This is where I'm going to use my hoops. So we're gonna prop one up right here for now. And basically, I'm just gonna put it in across the center on both sides. So they just pop into the ground really easy. They just slide in. So we're gonna make like roughly an X like such. Okay, so here I have structure. Ferns are very soft and pliable. Now if I didn't have these, I could totally just lay a sheet on it and it would be fine. It would perk back up, but I do have them, so I'm going to use them. So I'm going to use a sheet, maybe two, because this has gotten pretty big, and cover that. We're going to use the girls' rainbows and unicorn flannel sheet. Oh, well, there you go. All right, that did well. Another great tip that I've had people use, if there is wind, like in this situation, use clothespins. So you could, like, you know, close things up, hold the fabric together. That is another great option. You just want to make sure that you have all of your tender foliage covered up and tucked in, just like that. So there we go. We've got sheets and buckets galore. And then right here, I've got two beautiful spot-on pulmonaria. We're going to cover those as well. Those are a little iffy. They're really cold tolerant, so I probably do not have to cover these, but when in doubt, go ahead and cover. All right, I've got two other macrophylla hydrangeas in this flower bed that we do need to cover. You will see my Solomon seal is coming up right here. I am not gonna worry about that. Most of it is still really in like the bud stage, and it is fine. you hear the wind chimes, you know that that means it's getting a little breezy. We are not gonna have massive wind gusts though, so we're good. We are just fine. Below me, I was making sure I didn't step on it. I have some, I believe these were the ghost ferns, and they are just breaking dormancy and have just a little bit of their fronds just starting to come up. They are fine. I am not gonna worry about them. They will be good. I will say, if you have a case like where you might have some wind and you're using your fitted sheet, I know that the wind comes, this is the north, comes this way for these plants. So I'm gonna put the sheets that are most fitted, I am going to put them on that where the wind comes in and protect. That way, hopefully it'll hold on just a little bit better right there. All right, now, is every single leaf on this hydrangea protected? No, because she's just getting so big, it's hard to do that. But the vast majority, my top canopy is covered, so she will be protected. What we're gonna do is just finish up here, and then we're gonna move on to a different spot. I'm gonna show you some other ways to use your containers to protect your plants. Here we are in the backyard forest pansy bed. I have 3 macrophylla hydrangeas back here. They're all the Let's Dance Blue Jangles, and they are a nice petite hydrangea, but they do have a little bit of growth on them, and I see like the buds at the tip. They look great. And so I'm gonna use my 15-gallon, hopefully that will be the best one. Yep. And basically you just gotta wiggle, squiggle, do a little shimmy, shimmy, shake, shake, and get all the stems in there. And sometimes it's a little easier said than done. Oh, here we go. Okay, and even if the pot does not sit flat on the ground, it's not the end of the world. Brenna, out, out. We're gonna try our best. Oh, there we go, maybe. So close. Okay, I think that is good. So the 15-gallon is on there. I've got 2 more that we're going to cover, and then I also have a sweet little Munchkin. Munchkin is an oak leaf hydrangea. She is right here. I'm gonna see if my 7-gallon will work, but basically I'm gonna do the exact same thing. It's just turn the bucket upside down and put it there. Now, things that I am not going to worry about. I just can't cover them. It's not worth it. I have enjoyed them. So my spring flowering bulbs, I have tulips over my corner. The yellow ones have already opened up and their petals are exposed. There's a high chance that they will get frozen. Tulips though are really cold tolerant, obviously, and we're not gonna have like sustained cold temperatures for 3 days. It dips down and then it warms back up during the day. So we have kind of those temperature spikes. We will see how they do. Tulips that are not opened yet and don't have the color on them, they still have that covering, those should be perfectly fine. My daffodils, my jonquils that are blooming, any of my other spring flowering bulbs, I personally am not gonna cover. I just can't. I have enjoyed their color for weeks now. I appreciate them. If I lose them, it's okay in the fact that they'll come back next year. My tulips are annuals, but everything else will come back next year, and I have taken the time to absorb them and enjoy them. If they make it, yay, and we'll have beautiful blooms on those as well. Obviously, trees, my forest pansy, my cherries, there is nothing I can do, y'all. I can't cover that. Odds are, like my cherry trees that are out front that are gorgeous, they're going to get fried. it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. Again, I have enjoyed them, and I am leaving them to their own, to the throes of nature for sure. Other than my hydrangeas here, I might cover up my pugster butterfly bushes because they have new growth on them. And last year they took such a hit. So I'll probably cover up my little pugsters because they have new growth. Again, that's one of those that's kind of like, you get to make the call on that for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Ferns I'm not gonna worry about because they're still small and their fronds are just coming out. Hellebores, not worrying about it. The sunshine, the Florida sunshines, nope. Yeah, hydrangeas are my main goal right now, really. Hydrangeas and then hostas that have a lot of new growth, that's what I'm focusing on. Now, this is up for debate. And again, personal decision. You are the student of your own garden. You do what works best in your garden and the plants that you want to protect in your garden. My roses, my David Austin roses. Now, these do not bloom on old growth. They bloom on new growth, which is why we love them. But I've got gorgeous new foliage. I mean, it is beautiful. And I'm going to cover them just for the simple fact of I don't want them to have to start all over or that nice tender foliage get fried. Again, they may just go through this perfectly fine and can handle it because clearly they've been in here for, you know, a long time and are used to those cold temperatures. Again, I have decided for me it is worth those extra measures of just making sure that they are protected. Roses, of course, do have really strong, sturdy stems, but the new foliage is still kind of tender. So that's why I have the stakes. So I'm just going to go ahead and use them and drape over a towel on top of them like such, right? So that's all we're doing. That's it. That just makes me feel a little bit better for these roses. Again, maybe they don't even need them. They're probably like, Mom, I'm fine. Leave me alone. But you know, when you have those plants that you have just been like, oh, but they're gorgeous and they're beautiful and we just want to protect them. So that's what I'm doing. Now my clematis that I just planted, last week? Was it last week? Whatever that was. They still just had their little shoots up. They're perfectly fine. All right, so if you're gonna use the burlap bags, again, if you can have two sides, a short side and a long side open, then that works really well. And we're basically just going to drape as everything else. Now, I know with these roses, it is not complete and total coverage, and that's all right. Again, it makes me feel better. It's not necessarily about the plant right now. I mean, it is about the plant. So with the burlap bags though, you're probably going to have to use two, especially when you have a shrub that's a nice good size. So you put kind of one on one side and one on the other like that, and they'll overlap, but it works really well. So once again, I have a very fun, colorful garden and they are protected. Again, not total coverage on this, and that is okay. I just want to help just a little bit protect some of that foliage. Things I am not worried about, again, roses of Sharon, they just barely have any kind of little leaves on them right now. They are fine, bloom on new growth, no problems. Boxwoods, camellias, all of those things I am not concerned about. The only thing that, as far as a camellia, is if you have lots of beautiful buds, you may want to cover them if you can, if they're small. Some camellias, mature camellias, right, can be 10, 20 feet tall. Obviously, you're not going to be able to cover those, but if you have beautiful blooms, buds that are going to open up and you want to protect them, go for it. Spireas, I'm not worried about. My forsythias, not going to worry. The roses I will try to cover. I have some in large areas that's going to be tricky, and I am going to try to cover my Julia Child, kind of that same idea, just drape it. So we're going to move on over to the nursery and the new Woodland garden. We're going to cover some plants up there. All right, so here I am up at the Woodland garden, and I have got my beautiful ruby slippers oak leaf hydrangeas that have already fleshed out with growth. So simple as that, y'all. We're taking the 15-gallon containers and we are covering them up just like that. It really is quite useful to have these pots. Jerry called me right after I picked him up, and I was like, man, us growing plants sure is coming in handy right now. So super nice to do that, because oak leaves bloom on old growth. Want to cover that. I'm not worried about my camellias. They don't have a whole lot of growth on them, right? As far as like buds, they have growth. They don't have a lot of buds, so they are fine. But this beautiful Diamond Lake hosta that is basically all fleshed out, I am going to do my best to wrangle all of this foliage, tuck it up in there, and protect it like that. It definitely needed a 15-gallon. The other ones can probably just use a 7. So really that's all I'm focusing on were these oak leaf hydrangeas and then the hostas, because they have lots of beautiful foliage out. Everything else in here is totally fine. They can handle it and be just fine. I just kind of keep double checking myself over and over again. The hostas will be it, and then we can move on down to the nursery, because I have some more macrophyllus in the ground that I desperately want to flower this year. So I'm going to protect those as well. All right, so my last set of hydrangeas that I'm really going to focus on trying to protect are these 3 LA Dreamin' Macrophylla hydrangeas. I've got 3 of them right here. They are completely fleshed out, especially on the tips, with beautiful new growth. Last year we had a crazy cold front come through with tons of wind. And even though I double covered these in burlap bags, with that brutal wind, they just did not stand a chance. And so out of the 3 hydrangeas, only 1 produced some flowers, and it was like maybe 2 flowers for the whole plant, and it was very sad. But the LA Dreaming, a customer recommended these to us a couple of years ago. We grabbed them, we were able to find them, but on the same plant you're gonna have all sorts of pinks and blues and purples, and this one is too big. I think these are too big even for my 15 gallons. So, all right, we're gonna pivot. Gardening is all about problem solving, people. So they're too big, they're too wide. They're not too tall, they're too wide for the 15 gallons. So we're gonna say a little prayer that burlap will work this time, since we don't have the wind. All right, so there we go. Another science experiment here at Creekside Nursery. 3 of the exact same plants in the exact same location. One gets a pot, one gets 1 layer of burlap, and one gets 2 layers of burlap. I ran out of burlap bags, so that's why we did 2 in the 1. But I will say that when you're in underneath trees like this area, it tends to be much more protected as opposed to being out in the big wide open like the vast majority of the gardens are at the house. So they should be, we're gonna hope and pray that they are okay. That is the downside of having macrophylla hydrangeas or hydrangeas that bloom on old growth. When you get these false springs and then the cold temperatures come back in, it will, it'll fry those flowers. And personally, that's why I move more towards panicle hydrangeas, smooth hydrangeas, blooms on new growth as opposed to old growth. Because my panicles and my incredibles, my smooths, my invincibles, I'm not worried in the least bit about those. I am leaving those alone. Everything that blooms on new growth, I know I did my roses, we've already talked about that, should be perfectly fine. Again, it's not that is it going to kill the plant, it's are you going to get the plant set back in foliage, or if it blooms on old growth, are you going to lose your blooms? That's what I'm trying to prevent. All right, so what we're gonna do now is I do have my whole bank of David Austin roses near the patio. There's a total of 9 roses. I have 3 groups of 3. I'm gonna try to go grab some landscape fabric that way because it's really long and I can fit it all into that area. We're gonna try to cover that and then we will be done. Last thing, a little tip. If your plant is in a container, just pick the container up and move it into your garage, right? So if you have a shrub or a perennial, or even you have annuals, something that's in a container that you can pick up and move, just put it in the garage, close the door, boom, there you go. That's probably basic 101 of how to protect your plant. All right, I'm gonna go grab that and then we're gonna try to get this wrapped up for the day. All right, so you see the beautiful display of the protection blankets behind me. And so the roses are covered, we got some azaleas covered, we got the lilac covered. This was a lot larger than I had remembered, so we got lots of things covered here. But basically the idea is, if it has value to you, like it is important to you and you want to protect it, go protect it. If you're fine and you're like, listen, Jenny, I'm just going to let nature do what it's going to do and I'm not going to worry about it, then that's awesome too, right? I have got my generous gardener right here on the trellis and she is beautiful and covered, but she's massive and huge. There is no way I'm going to try to cover her. It is going to be what it's going to be and it will be fine. I just wanted to give you some information and some weapons that you can use in your garden if you need to protect some plants and that is your desire to do so. Gardening is definitely an adventure between nature and pests and critters and life and just everything in general. It is never boring around here. Lots of things happening to keep you on your toes. As always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day and we will see you in the next video.